Yes, guys, what's going on? Happy New Year. I hope you had a great Christmas. Obviously, if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a great break. On to a new year. Hopefully, it's going to be a bit better than the last one. Um, but yeah, we'll see. Today, I'm joined by Taylor for the first episode of 2021. Taylor, do you want to tell them a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Taylor. I am 20 years old and I am self-employed with my own kind of web design company. So I basically like build websites for people. I design them, build them all from scratch. And I've been doing that for about a year and a half, just over a year and a half now. I finished college in June 2019 and kind of decided to go self-employed the month after, which was scary because I was kind of stepping into unknown territory considering I'd only worked for people before. But yeah, it was good. I liked the risk, and it was yeah, I'm doing well now. I quite like ice skating and cycling in my kind of free time. I really enjoyed that. I used to get lessons for ice skating, which was cool. And yeah, I enjoy photography as well, which I took at college too.
Wicked. I've seen some of the photos that you take.
Yeah, I like South Bank and stuff like that in London,
Yeah,
like the street photography.
wicked. So, one thing before we start, Taylor is actually the genius behind the Mental Muscle website. Um, so if you have a spare minute, go and check that out, and you'll definitely see how well he is, how good he can do his craft. So I can definitely vouch for him.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it. We'll dive straight in. Um, and the first question that I want to ask you, Taylor, is what experiences have you had with your mental health, whether they be good or bad, or anything surrounding men's mental health or mental health in general? Um, yeah, I'm going to pass it over to you to enlighten the people.
Okay, so I've been kind of I was probably a bit of both in terms of I've had a good experience and had kind of bad experience in terms of when I was in like high school and stuff. I didn't have too many friends. I had a good few friends, but I wasn't like one of the popular ones, I guess you would say. And so I used to just keep myself to myself, and I guess because of some of my interests and kind of the fact that I kept myself to myself, some people thought that was weird or different, and so some people used to like make jokes about it. I didn't take it in a bad way, but people just used to make jokes and things, which was fine. And so I kind of I went through a period where I used to kind of I wasn't doing great. I have this a woods like right behind the back of my house, and I used to kind of like go for walks and go and sit in go sit in a massive tree at like 10 p.m. 11 p.m. at night,
Mm.
and just sit there and think, because it was a place for me that I could see everything that was going on around me, but no one knew I was there, and it
Yeah.
was just a way for me to be able to think and kind of get my feelings out, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, and so that helped me a lot when I was struggling. But I mean, I've been kind of really, I would say, resilient in terms of um, anything that comes at my way. So
Yeah.
I suffer with Crohn's disease, which I've had since kind of uh, late 2016, early 2017.
Okay.
And so that came with obviously a whole host of different things, and I was very ill during kind of both my GCSEs and my A level exams,
Yeah.
and so that was quite a difficult time, and kind of trying to stay positive, because obviously when you're really ill and you kind of feel like, oh, yeah, everything's against you.
Mm.
So I kind of try to stay positive, which I had a great kind of support group of friends and family.
Mm.
When I was in hospital, my friends used to come and see me and things like that, which was really nice, and so did my family.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
in terms
Cool.
of kind of the support network I've had a really good support, and yeah, I've had lots of people there for me always, and I just try and stay positive in terms of everything I do.
Mm.
That makes there's no point being down, being mean to people, because it doesn't get you anywhere.
Of course.
um and yeah, a lot of people say, how are you always so positive about things, and I have a lot of friends that struggle with mental health, and like I just say to them, "Look, just talk to me, just like rant to me or anything, I'll just listen."
Mm.
And although to me it's not much because I'm used to just listening, and
Yeah.
it doesn't affect me. To
Mm.
them, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice to do that.
Mm. Wicked. So you touched on about how you had Crohn's disease then. For anyone listening that doesn't know what Crohn's disease is, do you want to kind of give them a little bit
Yeah, so
more?
Crohn's is an inflammatory bowel disease. You've probably heard of like Crohn's or colitis,
Mm.
and it's basically it's to do with the bowel and kind of having issue with that and things like that. And I mean, I was close to having emergency surgery
Yeah.
last year, but I've now been on this infusion which I have every 8 weeks,
Mm.
and I've been on that for about 7, 8 months now.
Yeah.
And I've stopped taking tablets, and I've been the best I've ever been since I was diagnosed, which was what, like 2.5, 3 years ago now. Well, it seems like such a long time ago.
That's crazy. Time flies though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No. Well done on you, especially for getting through that as well. Like I know quite a few people who have suffered from Crohn's disease, and every time I hear about it, it never sounds pleasant at the best of times. So um,
Yeah, I mean, it affects people in different ways. So I'm in a Facebook group with kind of lots of young people around the UK that have it,
yeah,
and you just use it as like a support bubble. I mean, it's more of a support bubble for most other people in
mm.
terms of I'm actually doing quite well, probably one of the healthiest in the group.
Oh wow,
Where we've got a lot of people, we've got some people in hospital at the moment, and there's always people that have got stuff going on, and it kind of, for me, it's nice because I can give my support
yeah,
because I'm feeling fine, and
mm.
I know I'm helping them. But then if I ever feel the same when I
Yeah,
was ill, then I know that they're there, which is really nice, and it's kind of a really nice support because I don't have to explain myself because everyone knows what you're going through. They know the pain that you go through. They know the toilet trips and things like that. They've been through it, so that you don't have
yeah,
to explain it to
yeah.
them.
I feel like that's something like that's very important, especially when you're going through something like that, because like you can have the greatest friends in the world, but I feel like if you're going through something like that, kind of the best thing and the best like substitute of a friend is someone that's been through that.
Yeah, I mean, people. I've got my best friend. He,
Hmm,
he doesn't. He actually has taken the time out to kind of learn and understand what it is. But it's not their fault that they don't know about it and they don't understand. I during my GCSEs, I used to um probably get a fair bit of sleep. I'd
hmm,
wake up and be absolutely shattered. I would have to go. I struggled to get out of bed. I'd go to my exam
hmm,
and literally come straight home after the exam and go straight back to sleep. I just had no energy, and I just, people just didn't understand, and neither did my employers. So I used to work at a farm,
yeah,
and I called in maybe twice out of the entire time that I was working there,
hmm,
and said that look, I've woken up, I've hardly had any sleep. I'm so tired, I don't have the energy, and that they were very like, they didn't understand, and I can't blame them because they just don't understand what I go through. But they were
hmm,
like, oh, you should have found cover, and I thought, well, yes, but I went to sleep feeling fine,
yeah.
and
But
I've
there's
woken up and I've had no energy, and it was kind of like there was no. I can understand because they're a business, but at the same time there was no empathy there, I guess,
yeah,
and that did knock me a bit because I was like, well, I can't do anything about it, and I feel guilty, and sometimes I went in when I probably shouldn't have
yeah,
because of that. Whereas when I worked for a web designing agency during college as well,
hmm,
and he was the most understanding guy. He used to send me messages going, if you've got some time and you're feeling up to it, can you have a look at this for me?
yeah,
But no pressure if you're not feeling great or anything.
hmm,
Which is kind of partly why I decided to go self-employed, was I could choose when I wanted to work.
yeah,
I could sit in bed and work some days, which is lovely because I
yeah,
don't have to worry about what time I get up. So I work better in the evening. So I'm not always the biggest morning person.
yeah.
So I schedule most of my meetings in the afternoon, but then I go to bed really late. So most nights I go to bed between 2 and 4 a.m.
Oh,
But that's because I work best at that time because there's no one to distract me, no one to email me. And it's just when I work best. So yeah.
I feel like that's another thing where if you are going through something and you might be going through a new job process, etc. Sometimes it might even be worth like saying to them, "I go through this sometimes, and I struggle with this and I struggle with that. During my time when I'm struggling, how are you going to be able to support me?" Um,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
it's a real it's a real kind of double-edged sword, I guess.
Yeah,
Some people don't like to say it because they get treated differently because of it. You know, some people are, it can be classed as a disability. You can get like disability allowance and things like that. Um, some people don't like the idea of putting the label on it in terms of the way that you get treated can be different
yeah,
because of it.
yeah,
And so some people don't like to say anything,
yeah,
but then if you don't say anything, they don't know.
yeah,
So it's a very kind of, I guess it's a situation type thing, and it's also just based on a person thing. Kind of, you know, some people like to say that they have Crohn's. Some people just like to keep it. You know, I'm very open about it. I'm very happy to talk about it. But
yeah,
obviously, for some people, it's a, I'll say maybe it's a taboo subject for them,
mm,
in terms of they may not want, or the community around them, it may not be accepted as something you talk about, because obviously it's talking about your bowels and things like that, and that's not
yeah,
something you normally talk about.
yeah,
Some people just don't like to talk about it, or, you know, especially if you've been kind of, there's a lot of people, there's a Facebook group for Crohn's that's like massive,
mm,
and there's a lot of people, of adults, that they struggle with change,
mm,
not just on like a, they just don't like change really. And so when they get diagnosed with Crohn's at 28, 30,
yeah,
40, whatever, they, one, can't come to terms with it, and they have the most negative attitude about it, instead of going, yeah, let me be positive about what I do have, what, you know, and things like that. They're just very negative
yeah,
because they kind of play the victim, and they're like, oh, you know, oh, well, why has happened to me and things like that. And I'm like, well, no, because there are, I know people in my Facebook group chat that are in a worse situation, but are the most positive people that you'll come across.
yeah.
And it's not about, you know, what you are dealt with, it's how you deal with it, that's the biggest thing.
Of course. That's. I feel like yeah. I think the key point to take about that is, um, what's the quote? It's like it doesn't matter what card you get dealt. It's how you play them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I could sit here and self wallow and go, oh, you know, my life's crap because, you know, I suffer with Crohn's, but it's not, because I don't I don't let it
Yeah,
affect me. You know, I push on and just, you know, ignore it, in terms of, I just get on with my day. You know, it
yeah.
is what it is. It's quite a common phrase I've heard recently, but it's true.
Take it for what it is, and kind of move on from there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um. So one thing that I wanted to ask you touched on, when you were at secondary school. Obviously, I know we both went to Riddlesdown. Um, when you were being a quiet Taylor and to yourself and keeping yourself to yourself, do you feel like you was truly being yourself, or do you feel like you was being kept to yourself and quiet because you didn't want to be yourself? And if so, whatever the answer is, how did that affect your mental health at that time?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that, you know, the way I acted around my parents and at home and my family was always is always going to be different to the way you act around your school friends, just because some things you do are never going to be accepted in terms of at school and college. So
Yeah,
you just don't do some of the things, you know, like if you give your mum and dad a hug or something, you know, it's, you probably wouldn't do that in front of them if you're outside, just outside the school gates, for example.
yeah,
And obviously you're just going to act different, not majorly different, but you just, you know, you change depending on the people you're talking to.
of course.
But in terms of kind of keeping myself to myself, it's very much, I did this during college as well. I used to sit in the cafeteria at college, and sit with my headphones on,
Mm,
my noise cancelling ones,
yeah,
and I just to ignore everyone, purely because of the fact that I knew where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to do web design. I knew what I wanted to do. So I spent every single minute that I wasn't doing college work working on trying to improve myself, either working for the agency or doing my own personal projects. And, you know, everyone else was, you know, going out to to Morrison's, going out to get drunk. Obviously not during the day in college, but
Yeah.
during the evenings.
Yeah.
Whereas I would be spending my time, either if I wasn't working
Mm.
for an agency or doing coursework, I was working on my own to improve myself.
Yeah.
And because of that, I now live, I'd like to think, a life that I enjoy and that I can choose. I that was the biggest thing as well, which was the freedom that, if I have a friend that goes, "Hey, do you want to meet for a coffee?" It's not a case of, "Oh God, can I fit it in around my work schedule, or
Yeah.
when I'm at work?" I can say, "Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, let's take the afternoon and go and grab coffee."
Yeah.
Because I work for myself, I'm like, "Okay, I'll just push this further later and do it this evening or something."
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time, because I'm uh, an only child. I spend a lot of time by myself,
Okay.
and this is
Cool.
something that a lot of people struggle with, is kind of being by yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, it's quite sad that people struggle to kind of be by themselves without having like social approval by a lot of
Yeah.
people. A lot of people want to, when they do something, they want to turn to someone and go, "Can you give me approval or social approval that
Yeah.
what I'm doing is good or whatever?" And I find that in a way sad,
Yeah.
because
Right.
you should be happy in your own company, which is,
Yeah.
I'm very happy to sit. I sit in my room probably 6 7 hours a day,
Mm.
either talking to my friends on online, or doing my own works. And I'm fine with that, whereas some people they just struggle, which is why lockdown has been difficult for them, because they haven't been able to have that social approval that they've been used to.
Yeah.
And so yeah, during college, I was fine. I used to just sit by myself, and some people used to think it was weird, but I was working on improving myself,
Yeah.
to then, when I finished college, I could go and do what I wanted to do, rather than a lot of people that take degrees that either don't even do that in the future. They got a law degree and they end up working at a farm, or working as an office receptionist or whatever,
Yeah.
um, and having that debt. Or some people just don't know what they want to do.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy because I feel like it's a that's a wicked mindset to have, especially at a young age. Obviously, college, you're 17, 18, and the fact that you could distinguish how you knew, if I get my head down now and I do these things, and I'm not afraid to sit by myself at lunch because I know that I'm going to be working on building myself, which is then intact, going to allow me to finish college and just go straight into what I want to do.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
feel like that's an elite mentality to have, especially at a young age where it's clearly paid off because you finish college, become self-employed at a young age, and are now doing very well for yourself. So
Yeah, I mean, because yeah, during college, a lot of people did kind of think I was weird, because people would say, "Hey, do you want to come here or there?" And I'm like, most of the time I would say no, no,
yeah.
because I'm either doing college work. And
Mm.
bearing in mind that I missed quite a lot of my lessons, and I had both computer science and photography coursework. I actually ended up managed to get all my coursework done and in on time. And most people that had been going out drinking and partying every night and stuff, they didn't even get it in by the time that it was supposed to be, which, considering I was in hospital for a portion of that as well,
Yeah.
like a couple, once or twice, I think, during over the course of being at college. I just thought, I'm being ill, I've been in hospital, and I'm still managing to get all my work done, on top of having two part-time jobs, and my own personal projects, you know. And
Really.
then people go, "Oh yeah, you're so lucky because you're self-employed." And I was like, "Well, no, I didn't have a social life during college because of this."
I took
But
lots
I
of
get,
sacrifices to allow me to get
yeah,
to this stage. So yeah, that's wicked, man. So you touched on it briefly. Um, Obviously, when you were when you were struggling, when you were at times where you probably wasn't great, maybe when you were suffering from Crohn's, or them times in school where you felt like you had to keep yourself to yourself, etc. Do you feel like the people you had around you, say, if we talk about the Crohn's situation, when you first got diagnosed with Crohn's, or maybe when you were struggling the most with Crohn's, do you feel like your environment helped you? I know in school you said that you had a good support group, and
yeah.
obviously you said about the Facebook group, etc., but kind of that first initial bit where you got diagnosed with Crohn's, etc. How was your environment? Uh,
Yeah, so when I was diagnosed with Crohn's, I had the best friends and family. They were always there. That were like, if you need anything, just let me know. I'd be happy to. I had a friend that she came to visit me in hospital,
mm,
and she had to get the bus all the way to the Croydon Hospital or Mayday, and she I'd fancied McDonald's,
yeah,
and so she took the bus all the way into Croydon into Box Park to
mm,
get me a McDonald's and a bubble tea, I believe,
yeah,
and then got the bus all the way back to bring it to me.
man,
And I just couldn't have. There isn't words that can describe how thankful I am for her for that, because she didn't have to do that. It wasn't easy for her. She had to go on a bus. She had to get on like two buses to get there and back.
yeah.
You know,
Buses around Croydon as well, or just manic as well.
yeah, exactly. And so, I was very, very thankful, and that kind of made me realize, okay, yeah, I do have a good friends that do care about me, and that, you know, I, I'm in safe hands, which
Yeah,
I know some people haven't. I know some people that their family are very against them in terms of they think they're lying, they think they're making up, because obviously a lot of it is you can't see.
yeah,
So I can be suffering in pain, either whether that be just abdominal pain and things like that, but you won't be able to see anything. I will look fine on the outside. I may look a bit pale and just absolutely shattered, but you can't actually physically tell that I'm either like I've got Crohn's. So that's another thing. Is a hidden. Is some people call it like a hidden disability,
yeah,
because you
yeah.
can't tell. You could walk down the street and walk past five people and not know that they've got it.
Exactly.
Um, and so I know some people that their family just think they're lying and making stuff up, which is very sad, because obviously why would they
Yeah,
just make up that they're ill, especially since they've been in hospital and stuff. They
yeah.
it's And I think that, yeah, if you compare it to people like that, yeah, I am lucky in terms of the people I had around me.
Mm, wicked. So to wrap it up, um, if you could go, if you could go back to a time where you were struggling the most, what's the one piece of advice you give yourself to help get you through at that time?
Don't care or listen to what people say. Other people's opinions don't matter at all.
Yeah,
As soon as I realized that and stopped taking any of the stuff people said personally,
yeah.
um, didn't bother me. People just said whatever they wanted. And I'm like, okay, cool.
You're like,
Okay.
just brush it off.
It wasn't even brushing off. I just didn't let it affect me. I just like, okay, cool. If that makes you feel better, then I'm happy. I'm glad that you could get that out of your system and it makes you feel better. But to me, didn't bother me in the slightest. I knew that I was, I knew that I was I knew my worth. I knew, that I wasn't what people said and things like that. And now at the end of the day, people look, when I speak to them, I haven't spoken to in a long time, and I say, oh yeah, I'm self-employed, and sometimes you get onto the topic of what do you earn and things like that, and I'm humble about it, but people are like, oh, what, you're so lucky. I'm like, no, I worked for that. It's
Mm,
not luck at all. And if it wasn't for being able to brush off what people said, then I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to go full time or go self-employed, or I wouldn't even got to the point where I would have been too scared to even think about, because it's a big thing for me, because I'm not the best at public speaking and things like that.
yeah,
And since joining a networking group, I had to, because I had to talk to other business owners, and bear in mind they're like 30s and 40s.
mm,
So I'm the youngest in my group.
yeah.
But age doesn't matter. It's mostly, as long as you produce good quality work, that's all people care about in the business world. Age is just is but a number. If you've got the only reason people think, oh, he's younger, he's not going to be as good, is just because of experience.
Yeah,
But as long as you can deliver, then you're never going to have an issue in terms of from a business level. But yeah, just making sure that you don't let things bother you. And yeah, that's what I would recommend and say.
wicked. I feel like a lot of people could take um, something from your mindset, especially your your resilience and your relentless to just not care about what people think and
Yeah, because if you can't change it, that's another thing. Is if you can't change anything, if it's something that you don't have control over,
mm,
what is the point in worrying?
yeah,
You know, there's nothing physically you can do if you cannot control it. So things that are out of your control that people like stress about and stuff. I'm like, why? You can't control it. Nothing that you do will make a difference.
mm,
So either come up with a solution or just move past it.
yeah,
If you can change it, then great, change it, and then it won't be an issue anymore. But if you can't, there's no point wallowing over it and being sad about it because, like I said, you can't change it.
of course. Right, I feel like that's a good way to end it. Taylor, thank you for coming on. Thank you for
Yeah, I
sharing.
appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
Everyone listening, make sure you subscribe. Go follow Taylor. If you need a website built, designed, you know who to go to. The magic man of his craft. Make sure you subscribe, like, share this on all of your platforms. And once again, Taylor, thank you very much, mate.
Thank
Take
you. I
care.
appreciate it.
See you later.